Hello. Today we'll be talking about the National Environmental Policy Act, or better known as NEPA. My name is Charity Reese, and I'm studying at AMU. Regards to the origins of NEPA. NEPA was originally acted in 1970 as a means to protect the environment. It was enacted into law as a way to have federal agencies adhere to all NEPA regulations. Federal agencies must adhere to NEPA regulations and conduct an assessment of all potential environmental impacts. NEPA was a way to ensure environmental compliance and to ensure that all environmental impacts were minimized during federal projects, such as buildings of highways and bridges and other such activities. NEPA applies to all major federal actions to include buildings of structures such as highways and bridges, land management, and other projects that may have a potential effect on the environment. NEPA does apply to all federal agencies, and it is key to note that all federal agencies must conduct NEPA processes prior to conducting projects that have an impact on the environment. It is key to understand NEPA and its processes. First off, it is important to note that NEPA is a procedural law. NEPA is procedural in nature. NEPA was established as a way to enforce procedures that all federal agencies must adhere to when making decisions on projects that may affect the environment. NEPA is a process that all federal agencies go through prior to actually completing or beginning a project that may have an effect on the environment or such as endangered species. NEPA is not a law that is supposed to influence or force an agency to make a certain decision, but rather it is a way for them to take into consideration environmental impacts and to make better decisions. Therefore, NEPA is procedural in nature. It is not meant to force an agency to go towards one decision or another, but rather to take into consideration their actions on the environment. It is key to understand that NEPA has three types of categories. 1 are categorical exclusions. 2 is environmental assessments. 3 is environmental impact statements. Environmental impact statements tend to be the most costly out of any of the NEPA document procedures. NEPA and the EPA. It is critical to understand that the EPA is in charge of enforcing and maintaining NEPA compliance. The EPA is responsible for ensuring NEPA implementation and compliance among federal agencies. The EPA must review all EISs to ensure adherence to the law. The EPA goes through this process and ensures that all EISs are kept in a database so that we can refer back to them for historical reference. Effectiveness of NEPA. The effectiveness of NEPA truly does depend on the individual agency's effort during the NEPA process. Some will argue that it is not always effective. One great example of this is the Defenders of Wildlife versus United States Department of the Navy. In this case, the Navy was challenged on its compliance with NEPA when building a warfare training range. The court ruled in the Navy's favor, changing the precedence that was set by other courts. Some argue that this decision will have negative effects on endangered species and NEPA compliance in the future. NEPA is an effective law under certain circumstances. As seen, NEPA's effectiveness can depend on individual agencies' efforts and compliance during the NEPA process. Thank you for your time today.